Mercedes' loss in form after dominating from 2014 to 2021 may be excused, but a third year of poor performance in 2024 raises the possibility that this is the beginning of a long-term downward trend. The terrible porpoising that Mercedes W13 experienced in 2022, a car that produced its own maximum downforce so near to the ground that bouncing became an issue, is the root of the car's problems. Raising the car, however, did not really help because it started to lose too much performance and started to back away from low-ride heights. After resolving the flaws, it made a strong comeback throughout that campaign to discover downforce higher up. It then went on to win the 2022 Brazilian Grand Prix, which gave it some hope that the worst was gone. It's not entirely catastrophic to finish third in the championship in 2022 and second last year, but it's a painful decline for a team that won a combined 15 constructors and drivers' crowns in the previous years. It needs to get back on the right track with the Mercedes W15. The seating arrangement of the vehicle was another very visible feature that generated discussion during the previous season. Lewis Hamilton, in particular, believed this to have contributed to his problems. The seven-time world champion remarked in a statement earlier this year, "We sit closer to the front wheels than all the other drivers. I'm not sure if people realize that. The front of our cockpit is too close to it. When you're driving, you feel like you're sitting on the front wheels, which is one of the worst feelings to feel when you're driving a car. What that does is it really changes the attitude of the car and how you perceive its movement. It makes it harder to predict compared to when you're further back and you're sitting closer, more center. It's just something I really struggle with." Although the new car won't be unveiled until next month, Mercedes needs to make sure it does 6 things right in order to live up to the high standards it sets for itself. Number 1. Car architecture. It is imperative that the Mercedes W15 achieve optimal performance from the outset by removing the inherent structural constraints that hindered its progress in the previous year. Technical Director James Allison has previously stated that there would be significant changes, and these important fundamental changes would have been made long ago. Allison declared, "There's no doubt about it. We're getting a new chassis, front and rear suspension, and gearbox. Those things won't be the same at all." That's not out of the ordinary, but it gives Mercedes a big chance to improve things that hampered the potential of its 2023 vehicle. Those restrictions persisted even after it changed the course of development in this way last year in Monaco, with the launch of a significant update package. It will improve upon the front-end anti-dive that the package added and adjust the car's suspension, in addition to drastically altering the rear. The monocoque modifications may also be quite important. Mercedes will be able to adjust the required side impact component placement, which will enable the zero side pod bodywork geometry. Additionally, Mercedes may choose to adopt the more V-shaped chassis that Red Bull presented in 2022 and actively developed in 2023. As a result, the car's skeleton will alter considerably in 2024, and Mercedes needs to get it right to avoid being pigeonholed for even another year. Number 2. Platform control. The goal of this generation of Formula One vehicles is to perfectly balance the mechanical platform's relationship with the car's aerodynamic properties. This is why the previously mentioned adjustments to the front and rear suspension are so crucial. One of the goals of the Monaco improvement from the previous year was to improve platform control, although Mercedes was only able to make a little progress in that area by increasing the anti-dive of the front suspension. The gearbox case prohibited changes in the back, making it difficult for Mercedes to adopt Red Bull's more aggressive anti-squat geometry. To do it, a structure was added to the gearbox's top. With the 2024 vehicle, Mercedes will be able to fully use the wealth of knowledge it has accumulated about the interactions between the mechanical platform and aerodynamic characteristics. When asked at the conclusion of last year how much more people understood about the current generation of Formula One vehicles than they did a year earlier, Allison responded, "Quite a lot different. We now know a lot more about how to make the spring platform and the aero platform get along better. That presents the primary difficulty." Number 3. Concept. In F1, the term concept is used frequently but is not well defined. Usually it refers to how the car looks on the outside, but with modern F1 cars, it's more about the performance windows you wish to drive in. The Mercedes automobiles of 2022 and early 2023 were frequently credited with their fundamental idea being the so-called zero side pod design. However, the group insisted that it wasn't. Conversely, Allison discusses conceptual options about the car's behavior as opposed to its appearance. These, according to Allison, are the several options that determine the aerodynamic properties. It's not just about downforce, it's also about the ride heights at which it's created and how it interacts with other elements of the vehicle's attitude. In terms of what a team values more than the car's aesthetics, he characterizes each of these as the major conceptual decisions. These choices, especially the one regarding ride height sensitivity, will determine the specifics of the wind tunnel tests. If the decisions taken are right, Mercedes will have to move fast enough to catch up to Red Bull on that course. Number 4. Risk versus reward ratio. Mercedes decided to continue with the car idea for 2023 after making a decent comeback in 2022 and winning a race towards the end of the season. However, there was a twist in the shape of regulation amendments implemented to address worries about the physical toll porpoising had on drivers. The primary modification was increasing the floor edge height by 15 millimeters. Although Allison describes it as occurring quite late in the day, she admits that the automobiles would bounce less. And the question was, how could one answer that? It ultimately came down to whether to take advantage of the 15mm increase in floor height by decreasing the ride height the car was designed to operate at, knowing that porpoising would be less of an issue and that the consequent downforce could be harnessed safely, or stick with the same idea. Mercedes went with option number 2. This choice was predicated on the fact that the team's performance significantly improved in 2022, deceiving them into believing they were headed in the right direction. Allison acknowledged that Mercedes had been too careful in designing the vehicle, which resulted in a ride height that was higher than optimal. While Mercedes adjusted that strategy as 2023 went on, the W15 will be the first vehicle entirely designed with it in mind. Mercedes needs to adopt an assertive strategy if it is to compete with Red Bull. Number 5. Collaboration. In the midst of the 2023 season, Allison, above center, having returned to the front lines as technical director, saw a vulnerability. He described the team's performance as fragmented, as they all scurried to recover after realizing how competitiveness had plummeted. It's not an easy effort to get a 100-person F1 design team to pull in the same direction, but the change in vehicle idea that started last season will be more completely implemented in 2024. The key concern is whether Mercedes will fall into the same trend if the team doesn't get off to the strongest start to the season. Number 6. Expectations. Mercedes' chances of challenging Red Bull for the championship in 2024 are slim. Although it's not impossible, a successful season will essentially be defined by narrowing the gap and becoming a more consistent threat to win races. The season-long development rate will be the most important factor. Mercedes may be prepared for a championship fight in 2025 if it begins behind but can overtake Red Bull in a vehicle with significant promise. Strong weekends have historically been seen by Mercedes as an indication of a breakthrough, see Spain 2022 or Austin 2023, only to have a downturn knock them back. Mercedes' last 2 seasons have been marked by ups and downs, hope and calamity. The group has to acknowledge that it will take a while to get back. Even if the team made some progress in that area in 2023, we can be certain that the Mercedes W15 would be a significantly different car from its predecessors. According to Wolff, every component has changed, and we are completely moving away from how we laid out the chassis. He acknowledged that we could get it wrong though. Regardless of Mercedes' outcome in the W15, victory, defeat, or somewhere in between, it is critical that the team react appropriately and avoid overreacting. That's all, guys. Do you think Mercedes will take care of the above proposed things and perform well next season? Do let us know your views in the comments and subscribe to our channel for more information.